Let's go! We made it. It's finally the first day of the NFL regular season. It's been a long time coming. Everybody, rock your football gear. Let's go. It's time to drink, watch football, and hang out and enjoy the nice fall weather as it rolls around. I'm so pumped, so excited. We'll start with tonight's big game, the opening game of the season. The Philadelphia Eagles will be able to unveil their Super Bowl championship banner and all that stuff. And although their coach acts like he didn't know it was tonight, which so stupid, he knows. Anyway, we're gonna look at this matchup and take a look, see what it's looking like. So the Eagles are hosting the Dallas Cowboys, who have been full of drama all off season long, just the way Jerry likes it. They don't have Micah Parsons now. They do have Kenny Clark. Philly is still favored by 8.5 points, and that line has actually grown from what it used to be. I actually don't think it's going to be an Eagles blowout. I think the Eagles are going to be a little bit worse this year than what they were last year, just because they're obviously defending champions, but mostly, and I feel like people are sleeping on this, their secondary is not the same. I mean, they lost Darius Slay. Charles Rogers is gone, so they have some cornerback depth issues, in my opinion, that is going to pop up during the season. They already are starting tonight with a couple injuries in the secondary, and I just think that teams will be able to score on them. So I actually thought the line for the over-under was 47.5, and I thought it was kind of low. I mean, these teams usually score on each other, and I don't see why it wouldn't be over 50. So, but I do think that Eagles defense isn't going to be as good this year with the secondary. Quinyon Mitchell is a stud for sure. Cooper DeJean is, also a stud, but the cornerback depth scares me a little bit. However, I think the Eagles get the job done. I think the Cowboys will hang in there. But ultimately, the Eagles win by like 6 or 7, maybe by a touchdown. 8.5 is right exactly, like close enough. I could definitely see them winning by 10, but I think it'll be close. It's the first game of the season. There's not tape from a previous game this year so that you could study. So a lot of random stuff happens. So we'll see how that game goes. I'm super pumped and cannot wait to watch that. And before we kick off the season, I wanted to kind of make my predictions for my awards for this year. And we'll start with MVP. My MVP prediction for who will win NFL MVP is Patrick Mahomes. I think he's going to have a huge season. I think people are sleeping on the Chiefs. They went 15-2 last year. You can't even name a wide receiver really that they had that was a stud. And Kelsey was kind of a shell of himself. So I think some of those young guys like Xavier Worthy are going to be better. He'll have Rashee Rice for some of the season. He missed a big chunk last year because he got hurt. I think he tore his ACL. Let me look at my notes. I have Mahomes as MVP. My offensive player of the year is Ja'Marr Chase. I think the Bengals offense is going to be incredible. One of my favorite future bets is the over on Joe Burrow passing yards. I think they are going to be just like when the Rams used to be the greatest show on turf. I think this Cincinnati Bengals is going to be the greatest show on offense, but it's also going to be the most horrible show on defense. I think defensively they're going to suck. Anyway, I have Ja'Marr Chase as offensive player of the year. He also, I feel like loves stats. So he's going to want, even if they're getting blown out, he's going to want to catch some 30-yard passes to kind of add to his stat sheet. So I love that pick. Defensive player of the year, I think it's TJ Watt. I think that guy's just incredible. He got an extension. I think he's going to be really good. Plus, sleeper pick, after I go through my awards, we're going to kind of recap what my predictions was for each and every team. And the biggest surprise on my board, I think you're going to think and see, is that I actually have the Pittsburgh Steelers winning the AFC North. And if they do win the AFC North, I think it's going to be a huge part because TJ Watt is going to be Defensive Player of the Year. Offensive Rookie of the Year, I'm going Cam Ward. I think the kid has been so overlooked, so disrespected in the way the media has covered this draft and talked about him. They've talked way more about Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel, fifth rounder and a third rounder, than they have about the number one pick, who has done everything right this offseason, it seems like, has been a great leader and kind of taken over, it seems like, that Tennessee Titans culture and locker room. So I have high hopes for Cam Ward. I think he's the offensive rookie of the year, not offensive player of the year, offensive rookie of the year. And a defensive rookie of the year, this might surprise you, but it's actually a guy from an atrocious defense, in my opinion. I think the rookie in Cincinnati, Shamar Stewart, because that defense is going to be so horrible, I think he's going to get to have most of these stats because I think he's actually going to be a stud. And if he's a stud, he's going to look a lot better than the rest of his teammates because they don't really have anybody except for Trey Hendrickson on defense. So I think he's going to eat. I think I could see him getting 10 sacks or 10 plus sacks. This was a tough one. I could have gone Abdul Carter. I've heard that he's been, tearing it up at camp with the Giants. But the Giants have a lot of good defensive players too. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should have gone that way because that might mean more stats for him if other guys are opening up lanes for him and you can't necessarily double the others. But I think with Shamar Stewart being a rookie, it's not like he's going to be on the scouting report for opposing offenses until he kind of makes a name for himself. And I think in the beginning of the season, that'll be when he starts doing that. And we'll see how that goes from there. Coach of the year, I got Mike Vrabel. I think the Patriots are going to be, a very much improved team. And I just think he's a hell of a coach. And I don't know. I just think the culture that he'll establish there, and looking at it now, maybe I should have predicted more wins from the Patriots from what I have on my board. But I still think that the league will respect him and make him coach of the year. I think this year is going to be fairly even. I don't think there will be a 15-win team in the NFL. I think the parity in the NFL is what makes it so great. And I think this year will be one of those years where maybe the highest winning team might have 14 or 13. I don't think it's going to be like incredible, like 15-2 or something like how the Chiefs were last year. And last but not least, comeback player of the year. I think that's a pretty easy one, to be honest. I think it's Aiden Hutchinson. If he starts week 1, which he's, I think, slated to, I almost already want to give him the award. That guy had a gruesome injury. It wasn't even early in the season. And for him to be back already, and I think he's going to be just as good as he was, I think that says a lot. I think because of that severity of the injury and him being back so quick, and I think even just having a typical Aiden Hutchinson season will definitely win him the award. Because a typical Aiden Hutchinson season is an elite season for the majority of linemen in the league. So I have him getting that. I'm going to erase my awards off here so that I can show this list so that it's more clear to see. And I'm going to read you out my division winners and we'll go back. I obviously did a recap. I kind of went through all the divisions throughout the last month or so during camp. And through there, obviously, you guys could disagree and let me know what you thought. But this is what essentially looks like. I went one by one. So if you want to watch any particular video from any of these particular divisions, feel free to do so. But this is what my big board looks like. Look for your division. Look for your team. And I will read these off. We start with the NFC North. I have Detroit winning the division at 12-5. I think Green Bay will be second at 12-5 as well. That'll be a really tight race. Minnesota 10-7. Again, I really think they'll be better than that, but I fight my bias and I went to 10-7. I feel like as long as McCarthy's average, I don't see how they can't be 11-6 or 12-5, but we'll go 10-7 to not be biased there. Chicago, I think, will be improved, but I think they'll be 8-9. The NFC West, we got the Rams, 12-5 for the Rams. I'm counting on Stafford being healthy, but if Stafford's is healthy, I don't see how they don't win that division at 12-5. Seattle, 11-6 will be second. San Francisco at 9-8, and Arizona also at 9-8. I think that's a really strong division, and I think Arizona and Seattle will be very much improved. And San Francisco, I just think they're a lot older, and they're gonna, it's just they're changing it up there. All right. The NFC East, Philly will win the division. I think they're going they're 13-4. I can definitely see them. Obviously, I have no doubts about them winning the division at 13-4. Washington 10-7. I think they'll drop a couple games because people now are going to be sleeping on them. They know Jayden Daniels legit. The Giants will be improved at 7-10, and the Cowboys, like I said, and I said this before the Micah Parsons trade. I think they're just going to have a pretty crappy season. I think it's going to unravel. I think they're more talented than 16-11, but I think they are, once the losses start piling up, I think the drama will kick in. It's the Cowboys, and it'll go south from there. Speaking of South, the NFC South, Tampa Bay wins the division again at 11-6. I think Carolina improves a lot. and actually jumps Atlanta. I don't see it with the Falcons. And there's an unknown there with Michael Penix Jr. Don't forget about that. Can't act like, he's a stud yet. So I think Atlanta goes 8-9, and New Orleans will be the worst team in the NFL. I think they're 2-15. All right, AFC North. This is the surprise right here. I got Pittsburgh 12-5. They've got veterans. They've got older players. Aaron Rodgers, I think, has a bounce-back season. He doesn't need to be absolutely incredible either because I think that defense is going to be so good. Don't forget, they got Jalen Ramsey now. Yes, he's older and might be on the back end of his career, but I think he can still ball out. Baltimore second at 11-6. That one's tough because obviously with Lamar, but I had to I couldn't see Pittsburgh being 14-3, and I really do see them winning this division. So maybe it's just because it's a tough division, and maybe just Baltimore has a couple bad bounces here. I would not be obviously surprised if Baltimore wins the division, but I just think that I could really, really honestly just trust in the Pittsburgh vets that are there. DK Metcalf is there now, so I think Pittsburgh will win that division. 12-5, Baltimore 11-6, Cincinnati 9-8, and those 9 wins are all because of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, because that defense is going to be complete booty. So I think Cincinnati's going to be third, trying to sneak into a playoff spot, which I don't know if they get in. Cleveland 4-13, second worst team in the NFL. All right, the AFC West, Kansas City, don't sleep on them. Come on now, 13-4, and that's only because I think they rest starters. And well, actually, in this case, maybe they don't rest starters in the last week of the season. But I'm just saying, they've done this so many times. I think that the hunger kind of wears off a little bit. But I think they're going to be a better football team this year than they were last year. But they ain't going 15-2. They won like 9 one-score games last year. It's going to balance out a little bit. So 13-4 for Kansas City. But I think Mahomes is going to put up stats. That's why he's my MVP. Denver 11-6. The Chargers 9-8. And I did not change any of these. When I picked the Chargers at 9-8, that was before they lost their left tackle for the season. But I'm sticking with it. I ain't doing no changes here. Chargers 9-8, and Las Vegas improved, but 8-9. AFC East, Buffalo 12-5. I think they could definitely. If I'm going to pick one team other than Kansas City to be the best team, it's obviously going to be Buffalo. I think Josh Allen is incredible. New England will be improved. 9-8 is what I said. Really, if Vrabel is going to win Coach of the Year, I think they're probably going to have to be better than that. So that's kind of, I'm kind of arguing against myself there. But let's just leave it like I predicted, and we'll go from there. Obviously, I predicted these records before I did my end of the season award prediction. So New England 9-8, Miami 6-11. I don't see it with them, and the Jets 5-12. Justin Fields, I don't think he's ever really going to be a winning starting quarterback. The AFC South last. I think this might be a surprise to some people, but I got Indy going 11-6. They were pretty solid last year, and they had no real quarterback. Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco bounced back and forth. They couldn't figure it out. So 11-6 would be basically because of stability. I think if Daniel Jones remains the starter the whole season, at least they have stability at quarterback. And I think he can be average and maybe a little bit above average. So we'll see. I got Indy winning that division at 11-6. Houston 10-7. Their coach is really what kind of scares me. I don't see with them. But Stroud maybe has a bounce back year. Tennessee 7-10, much improved. I think Cam Ward's rookie of the year. And I think at that point, they are pretty much then on the edge of pushing for, being a good playoff team for the following season. And Jacksonville will be 6-11. Duval, I think, will be better, but I mean, they're going to have some Trevor Lawrence questions to answer at the end of the season, in my opinion. All right. Those are my start of the season predictions for how it's going to go. I cannot wait. We begin today with the Cowboys and Eagles. I'll come back on tomorrow and we will predict week 1 and the slate and go see how all those games go. For my prediction for tonight's game, I got the Eagles winning, but I think the Cowboys maybe cover the spread. All right, I'll talk to y'all tomorrow.